Hi everybody, this is JD from We Watch Shudder. Just a quick heads up for you today. Our episode does include some pretty open discussion about gender and sexuality from around the 29:30 mark for about 7 minutes. There's some language that might be challenging for some of our listeners. We want to make sure you're prepared for that. And if you want to just skip most of it, again, it's from about 29 until about 36 minutes. We just want to make sure we don't cause any difficulty for anybody, because we love you. Take care of yourselves. On with the show. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of We Watch Shudder. My name is JD. Who's here with me?
It's Michelle, and I'm thirsty as fuck.
Oh, well, do you have a beverage?
I do. I have water.
Just one beverage? I currently have two.
Mm-hmm. You're a beverage goblin. I do that.
Just two right now. I have a water, and I have a black raspberry sparkling frost zero sugar bubbly beverage because I like my fizzy drinks.
Okay, so you got your water and your fun. Now you need one for caffeine. But I guess it is late at night, so you can't go full beverage goblin.
I've had plenty of caffeine so far today, and I'm about to medicate in the other direction, so we don't need those two things banging off each other.
Water, coffee, and Mountain Dew is my combo.
Off each other.
Banging. Well, this is off to a banging start.
Isn't it? Yeah. It's our first, here's the image that they show on Shudder says a Shudder exclusive, but on the Shudder landing page it says a Shudder original. I think it's a Shudder original. It does have the Shudder banner in the pre-show credits, where it shows like IFC Films and XYZ. It has the Shudder banner there as well, which is typically a Shudder original. So I'm calling it a Shudder original getaway.
And I did not think about it at all.
I bet not. But when you're a details guy, that's the kind of shit you notice. It's like, wait a minute, this says original, but that said exclusive. It doesn't matter. It's a Shudder drop. Our first new Shudder drop of 2025. And let's see how the year is off. This is a Nick Frost jam. Did we find a Descrippy script for this one, Michelle?
No,
we didn't. Let me look at
Mostly,
the one here on IMDb real quick.
They're not so bad. While you're doing that, I do have an idea. Okay. So I've noticed that every time we release a Michelle in Review, which is our monthly recap of all the things that I watched and found interesting for the month, our listener numbers go down, and we generally get one new 1-star review on Spotify every time, without a doubt. So here's
on the Michelle in Review.
Yeah. So there's every time we lose one person who decides that they hate me in particular, and I have an idea. I thought of this today. One of us has to take a hit for the team and commit a felony that does get nationwide coverage, because I bet if Luigi Mangione had a podcast, those numbers would be set in records. People would want to know what he feels. So I think one of us needs to do something monumental that either causes people to love or hate us, and then they'll be like, fuck, I wonder what they thought about the movie Get Away, starring Nick Frost, originally titled Falta.
The problem with that plan, Michelle, is that if either one of us commits a Luigi Mangione level offense, that at least that one of us never gonna be able to do this podcast ever again. Second of all, because you've suggested it on the podcast, neither one of us, frankly, will probably ever get to do this podcast ever again if we committed that level of offense.
Well,
so while
counterpoint.
Okay.
I feel like I have to be the one to take a hit for the team because I'm the one who's causing people to hate us. Okay. So I'll go down. But secondly, if you happen to go down for a gigantic offense, you think I'm quitting the podcast? Not with those listeners coming in, baby. No. We have a new co-host tomorrow.
What I'm saying, Michelle, is, say, for example, I was the one to go out and commit the major offense. the fact that you on this podcast have suggested that that's something that one of us should do makes you a co-conspirator, and you are thus criminally liable.
I'll podcast from prison. Don't give a fuck.
They won't. Michelle, do you think you can just bring microphones and computers and such into prison? That's not a thing.
Yeah, it's just like a Holiday Inn, right? But you can't, like, the door's locked.
Oh,
it's just a nice...
everybody should go to jail at least for a few days, is all I'm saying.
No, thank you. I wouldn't survive.
Oh, my God.
Overnight in our city jail, with me being the only person locked down, I would still not survive. I would just cry to the point of dehydration and become a husk. I can't. I'd be pacing like a tiger. Get me out of this cage. And then
yeah, I'd
eat a circus performer.
Sucks,
okay.
Honestly,
I believe you.
Do your best to never go.
Yeah,
anyway.
no, I'm good. Yeah.
The description on both Shudder and IMDb is exactly the same. It is very short. There is one detail that it mentions that I don't particularly like, so I'm going to try and sum this up without hitting that detail. Let's see. So this is the movie. A family's vacation to a remote getaway takes an unexpected turn. Getaway. 2024.
You get away. Rude.
86 minutes. Michelle.
It's a movie. Yeah.
Would you care to share with us your spoiler-free thoughts on the first Shudder drop of 2025?
I guess.
I mean, you don't have to.
Rather.
We can just.
Oh no,
we can just
no,
say
I'll do
fuck
it.
it
I'll
and
do
close
it.
up shop.
No, I really need to make sure I speak enough to guarantee that somebody gives us another 1-star rating. Not that I'm paying attention, and not that I've noticed a pattern.
Why is this the first time I'm hearing about this, Michelle?
I don't want either of our self-esteems to be ruined, so I'm just taking... I know it's specifically me causing the problem, so I'm just letting myself feel it.
What makes you say... Is it just because it's tied into the Michelle in Review episode that you assume it's because of you?
Yeah, absolutely. Guaranteed.
Are the people leaving the 1 stars leaving comments as well?
No,
well,
that's what makes it ambiguous.
Fuck 'em.
I know. No, I don't want them to leave a 1-star with a comment. That's so much worse. If I can just look at the metrics, that's good enough. They're hurting me in the way that they want to hurt me, and you know what? It's fine.
Here's what's interesting about it is I obsess over like the play numbers. I could give a fuck less what the reviews say.
Oh, I'm the exact opposite. So we both get to feel depressed in different areas and fascinated in different areas, and it balances out.
For sure.
Balances out. Okay. Well, my thoughts on Getaway.
I should, by the way, say that I do always welcome constructive criticism. But if you're just some asshole on the internet with a shitty take on something that you didn't enjoy and you decided it was so important to sit down and make sure we know that, fucking get bent. I don't give a fuck.
And I like criticism in the form of a compliment sandwich, where you start with a compliment, you give me the criticism, and then you end with a compliment. So starting by saying, wow, Michelle, I like your new hair color. Did you know you fucking suck? But like those Crocs, the Lisa Frank edition, I see, that's pretty nice. See, I would accept that.
That's okay. Well, we're
compliment sandwich. Nom nom nom.
There's the therapy portion. It always happens
thank
sooner
God.
or later. We got it in there.
Yeah, I did meet with my therapist over the holidays, so I missed 2 weeks of appointments, and I had a list when I showed up.
I bet you did. I'm going in for my second appointment with my new psychiatrist here next week. I think we're going to do the ADHD testing, or at least look at scheduling the ADHD testing. I don't know. Apparently there's like a short test, and then based on that short test, they determine if there's a longer test that you need to take.
Yep.
I don't know. We'll find out. When you did this recently, Michelle, did you go on to the longer test, or did they pull the plug on you right on the short test?
I was told my test would take an hour, and I was back done in 15 minutes.
Oh,
so,
shit. Okay.
Yeah, they were immediately like, no, you definitely do not have ADHD. And I went, what the fuck's wrong with me then? Good news, my psychiatrist, though, is putting me on ADHD medication anyway, because I have all the symptoms for it. So I get a Ritalin prescription without ADHD, and I'm going to be productive as fuck. Nice. Okay.
All
Get
right.
away. Get
Get
away.
away.
Get away. It's a movie.
Spalta, what are your spoiler frees?
Spalta. So about 20 minutes into this movie, I think roughly, is when I figured out exactly what was going on and how it was going to end. And I went, oh, I feel like they gave away way too much. And then I was stressing about like, am I going to be disappointed when there is inevitably a reveal of some sort, or like with, if my guess is right, will I be like, oh, bummer. But then it turns out I did not guess the ending. I guessed the middle perfectly. And then there's a lot of stuff that happens afterwards that results in a big payoff. And I really wound up liking it. I think it's very funny. This is a very funny, dark comedy movie. Nick Frost, great as always. He both wrote and starred in this one. I really like the characters. Everybody in this is weird. There's not like just a normal guy. Maybe like the police officer is kind of a normal guy, but everybody's like got a very good element of weirdness to them. And that makes for a lot of fun scenarios with how they interact with one another. So happily surprised, given that I did not like the last Nick Frost movie that we watched. And he kind of plays a similar character personality wise. So we are going to go with a 3.5 for this one.
3.5 skulls for Michelle on Get Away. Or is it Get Away? It's Get Away. It's two different words.
Get away. Get away. Okay. 3.5. JD.
Yeah?
Would you like to hit us with your spoiler-free thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting to me because recently we've had several episodes where we've talked about how, as a general rule, Michelle is just not a fan of comedy, especially when it comes to horror movies. And then here's one that you were a little bit more taken by, and so it comes as no surprise to me that I was not. This movie, and I don't know that it's necessarily the movie's fault. This movie, well, it's definitely not the movie's fault. The movie makes a choice about 2/3 of the way through or so, and it's not something I was expecting at all. I was really into the idea and the vibe of the first part of this. And that shift just really completely pulled me out of it. And so the last third or so of this movie after the big reveal didn't really work for me as much as the first part of it did. I did think it was decently funny. There's also, though, there is one character in this movie that I don't know, really kind of felt somewhat problematic to me. We'll talk about it in the spoiler section. But there's even just like one detail about that character that I feel you could have very easily left out and still gotten the appropriate message across without adding some context there that I thought was, I don't know. We'll talk about it. I realize I'm being incredibly vague here, but so overall, like, it was all right. Like I said, the first half worked for me better than the second half. 2.5, I guess.
A very enthusiastic 2.5 from JD.
Yeah.
Gives it a 3 on average.
Yeah, it sure does. That was easy math.
Yeah. Okay, bye.
Thanks, guys. Go watch the movie, I guess.
Okay, on to the spoiler section.
Yeah, I guess it's time to talk spoilers here. If you do want to see the movie before we tell you everything, go do that and then come back. Okay, so Michelle, first things first.
I'm the realist. Drop this and let the whole world feel it. Iggy Azalea.
Oh, who?
Oh, wow. Okay.
That was genuinely honest. Who?
Australian female rapper. Wow, makes sense you don't know about a woman who's a celebrity. You only know about men, is what which is a very funny implication. The what? The Jonas Brothers?
Are the Jonas Brothers still a thing?
Probably. I haven't heard that any of them died, so I think they're still a thing. I don't know if they're together, but they're definitely still genetically related.
Michelle, I'm fucking 44. I don't know what the kids dig these days. My favorite music going right now is a couple of fucking geriatric rappers from South London.
Like how geriatric? Like very geriatric?
Like in their 70s. Yeah, Pete and Baz.
Okay.
Have you not seen? I've been fucking posting all over Facebook and shit about Pete and Baz. Guys,
I have not been Facebooking
get on YouTube,
very much.
Pete and Baz, Pete and BAS, like Sebastian. Pete and Baz. They just put out an album called Mugshot. They did this song called T-Pain that just references T-Pain, and the lyrics is kind of a rad sort of rap punchline. This T-Pain's from Tallahassee, right? And there's a line in it, and it's like, I'm a Tallahassee, sing for me, T-Pain. You know, as just a thing. And T-Pain heard it, and they did a remix of the song, and he did a verse on it. I don't know if you knew this. I did not. T-Pain was a rapper before he was ever famous when he got into the auto-tune R&B thing. And fucking motherfucker has bars. Like his fucking little verse on that song. The remix is on. Check out the record. Pete and Bass, Mugshot. It's these look and as far as anybody knows, they're being ghostwritten, right? I don't know that they're writing the material, but they do live shows. And they're fucking rapping, and it's mad because it's really fucking good rapping. Like it's very like it's the kind of rapping I like. It's very dense lyrics, very acrobatic. It's fucking wild.
I regret bringing up anything related to music.
Oh, I'm sorry, Michelle. You gotta check it out. I think
I will. I love T-Pain, so you sold me. I'll check it out.
It's just the idea of these 75-year-old South London grandpas talking about slinging coke and fucking putting people in the ground. It's so fucking rad.
I will absolutely continue this conversation once I have any reference of what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I get
I know you got really excited when I know
the album is like 22 minutes long. I think I've listened to it 100 times already. Anyway, I love short things. Let's talk about this movie. Michelle, you got a plot summary for us?
Sure, can do. Okay, so Getaway, originally titled Svalta. Nick Frost, he's in this. He wrote it. And he's a guy, and he has a wife/mom who he only refers to as mommy. And then she only refers to him as daddy. So you know this is going to be a fucked up kind of film. You know what these kind of people are. And then they have 2 kids. And it's a boy and a girl. So yeah, living the American dream, except they're in Norway? Sweden. And so they decided to go on a family vacation to an island where they do this 8-hour theatrical production that's not a play. Billy Elliot is a play. Hamilton is a play or whatever. This is not a play. It's art. So they do this 8-hour recreation every year of when a bunch of settlers showed up on their island and everybody starved to death and they wound up eating human beings to survive and this whole thing. So Nick Frost and his family, they get there and everyone's like, oh, this is a typical folklore community where we're upset about outsiders. And then he's like, well, bitch, I booked an Airbnb, so I will be staying in my Airbnb because it's non-refundable. So they go to find it. And then there's a guy there and the guy's kind of weird. And they're just having these bad interactions with all of the fellow islanders. One guy, oh man, she said that his waffles or biscuits or whatever looked dry. Thought somebody was going to die at that moment. And then people do die because they decide that they are going to pass the reins of the old lady who does the current Svalta celebration by killing and eating this family that showed up. She's like, it's going to be great. It's going to be a really, really good idea. We can film it for TikTok and become TikTok famous. We can just censor certain parts so that we don't get blocked by the moderators. I hear that Facebook/Meta will let us post absolutely anything right now, so we can go super, super viral. So they have this idea to do do that. And then, too bad, Nick Frost is going to kill you first. So then the family, it turns out that they're not actually family. They have all devised this thing where they will pretend to be a family and then go on fun outings, aka slaycations, where they just kill a bunch of people and they love it and they have a good time. So it's kind of like the Islanders have now, it's been flipped on them and now they're the ones getting murdered. The son does get murdered by Nick Frost because Nick's like, ugh, this guy sucks. So he kills him and they're like, oh, we have to go find another brother now. So I don't even know what the LinkedIn application for that would look like, or the Indeed app. Like, how do you even source for that? That sounds like a difficult concept. And yeah, Nick, you probably shouldn't have murdered him. You're going to have a really hard time filling that position because no one wants to work these days. Am I right? So then they decide to get off the island and they're like, oh no, they killed everybody. Blah. And then they get to live a happy life after murdering a bunch of people and everybody thinks they're innocent. Get Away, aka Svalta.
Yep, that's the movie. It's
that it is.
Starts out as something that I was like, honestly, this was probably an inevitability, but I hadn't given a lot of thought to, and I thought was an interesting idea. Is very much like folk horror comedy, right? Like, this starts out as just your typical city folk went off to a remote place and find out that the isolated community there is maybe way too weird for anybody's good. And I was really getting into that because, I love folk horror, right? That's a thing I really dig on. And I was like, what is going on here? And then it makes that... So you were talking about, Michelle...
Yeah, I really want to talk about this part.
You thought you had figured out what was going to happen at the end, and it turns out that happened in the middle, and you were not prepared for the end. Can you elaborate? Because I did not see coming the big shift where it turns out the family are killers. I didn't see that coming.
I 100% did, and I saw it coming very early. So that is interesting because I'm wondering if that colors how we feel about this movie, where it happened with that switch and you were like, oh, this is out of nowhere. And the switch happened with me and I went, that happened a lot earlier than I thought it would. And then it was just a big bloodbath that I was like, sweet, it pays off. So I figured out what was happening. First off, they call each other mommy and daddy. I knew there was something up with these freaks. I knew. Like, if you don't use your partner's name ever and only use a pet name, like people who only call each other doll and honey and stuff, like, I question you if you never use their name. But if you refer to your adult partner as mommy and daddy and your children are grown, these aren't even like it's a cute thing. We just had a baby, or we just adopted a new human, or it's a new like fun thing. If you've been calling them mommy or daddy for like 15 years, you're definitely a killer. So I was already on to these people. I knew something was up. And then they have that scene where Nick Frost is like, oh, I forgot my wallet. Oh, and he was saying like, my hands are so sweaty, as he was like trying to pay for his dinner. I was like, there's something weird with this dude, because Nick Frost is not intimidated by this other guy. There's something else going on. He's not afraid of this guy or what this guy is telling him. There's something weird going on. And then he's like, oh, I have to go back and get my wallet, and goes back into the restaurant and comes out and gets on the boat. And then, like, after they've gotten established on the island, not very much longer, they cut back to the sheriff or cop or deputy, whatever he's called. Hi, JD. Yes.
Something just hit me while you were talking about that scene where they're on the dock and he runs back to get his wallet, and then he comes back. As he's getting on the boat, Mommy says to him, oh, you got a little ketchup on your jacket.
Yep.
And I swear to you, now that I look at it, of course, but I was just like... I legitimately, with the mommy daddy thing, I was just like, oh, this is just some like weird fucking like it felt like they were like a legitimate couple, but like everything about their relationship was like very forced and that sort of thing, but at no point whatsoever, and that's That's
Yeah.
pretty solid sleuthing on your part, honestly. But
Thank you.
I
And I'm
should've
not
seen it
even done
coming.
going through all the hints.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, I just thought
yeah.
of that ketchup thing, and
Yeah.
while you were, I was like, oh Jesus, yeah, it's not
Yeah.
ketchup, it's blood.
Once you catch on, there's so much. And I felt like this is foreshadowing too heavily for a big reveal. And so it's really funny to me that you didn't pick it up at all, because I was like, oh, it's so obvious. But yeah, anyway, so then they cut back to the guy investigating the murder in that same restaurant. And I went, oh, well, that's definitely Nick Frost's family. Clearly, like, nobody from the island is going to go murder. And we know murder is going to happen on this island that they're on now. Like, Nick definitely went back and killed those people. Duh. Like, clear as day, no question from that point on. And then there's a lot of dialogue that happens after that that just slams it home. Most notably, in case I had been like, I don't know about this, the interaction between the son and the daughter is so heavily coded, because they're like, oh, you don't know anything about me. Yeah, because you two didn't grow up together. They are kind of strangers. She doesn't even know he's gay. He doesn't know much about her. Like, from that point on, it adds so much subtext to any conversation that they have, where it's like, oh yeah, you two are definitely not related. This isn't even just a family of killers. This is a group of people who get together and kill. I think Nick and what's-her-face are actually married, but these are not their kids. These are borrowed kids. This is not a fully growing up together family. So once you realize, and then it was like, it was so obvious, and I was very like sad that I was gonna miss out on a big twist moment. So the fact that it happens halfway through and then you just get beautiful bloodbath, like, love that.
Yeah, I looking back on it, definitely there are those signs. I'm not sure why I wasn't feeling terribly sensitive to them here. I imagine maybe being in a comedy mindset and not necessarily being really in a place of thinking, oh, we're gonna have that level of stuff going on, which is actually kind of ridiculous. I should have known that from, you know, Nick being involved in stuff like not just Shaun of the Dead, but especially Hot Fuzz, which is a movie that has a lot of that same sort of technique in it, and a lot of that, like, oh, if you go back and watch it again, you can see it all plain as day sort of thing.
Oh yeah, here's a really big one. When she goes and talks to that guy in the community who's got the biscuits or whatever, and she's calling them dry, she like throws a pot of boiling water in a guy's face and just laughs and leaves. Like, that's such a casual reaction to blinding a man that I went, yeah, you're definitely a sociopath. Like, okay, yeah. Like, there's so much stuff that once you know, you're like, yes, absolutely.
Was it a pot of water? I thought it was like a tub of candy or something on the counter of the store. And so he threw it at him, and it got into his eyes or something, was the idea.
But I mean, also possible.
You're definitely not wrong about the reaction either way. And yeah,
very chill.
I think wasn't on guard for that sort of thing. I mean, the bloodbath is nice, but like it, I don't know.
If you're not ready for it, then you're not going to appreciate it. Whereas I was waiting for it.
I think also, at least for me, I agree with you. It happened much earlier than it should have, or at least thinking about it, much earlier than I would have expected it to happen. And that section of it goes on a little bit longer than I would have liked this to have been maybe about 80% folk horror comedy and then 20%. 15 to 20% the big switch, and then get there. It was clever how the whole thing wraps up. Right, I do want to know. I can totally understand how Nick Frost survives after getting his hand blown off with a shotgun. I have no idea how the girl survives after taking a shotgun blast to the guts. Like, she would have bled out in minutes, I would imagine.
We just watched a movie where a girl got stabbed with a gigantic knife and barely had a wound.
Yeah, and I bitched about that, too.
I know. I was just doing a throwback to, like, yeah, we don't know how people survive sometimes.
Yeah, and so it's... Yeah, it just the tone shift wasn't something that that really worked for me. I can't fault the movie in any way. It made a choice, and I didn't go with it. Clearly, you went with it way more than I did. What else do you want to talk about with regard to this movie, Michelle? Because I have something that I do want to talk about, but I kind of want to leave it until after we've said all the good things.
I don't have a ton to talk about. I generally like this. I know what you're going to consider problematic, and I sat and thought about whether I considered it problematic, and I already have a counterpoint. So go ahead.
And I don't even want to suggest it's all that severe, but I could have done without the pervert character being a transvestite. The whole thing with wearing the daughter's underwear and that kind of element of his perversion. I think you could very easily get the same sort of creepiness and weirdness across without... And I'm not even saying, like, yeah, the guy's a fucking creepy weirdo. I get it. But there's so much connotation in that and has been for so long that it's like... it's 2024. There are better ways to make these points, and it just kind of stuck in my craw a little bit. I wouldn't say it like entirely ruined the experience for me, and much like some other things we've seen, I feel like there's genuinely not any malice there. It's just maybe, a little more consideration might have been helpful in that situation. You said you have, was that what you expected me to be bothered by?
100%.
Yeah.
I knew, because I also was like, oh, that's kind of a bummer. But then I was like, I think just because in my head right now, trans rights are such a big topic that I was like, because of the timing of this and because people suck, like any reference that is even somewhat similar to a trans person, and that includes like wearing clothes that your gender may not always choose,
Even on that level, not even transsexualism, or is it transsexuality? I don't know, being transsexual, but even just being a transvestite, it's like so...
Yeah, I wasn't done.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So yes, I'm saying like anything that even represents like a characteristic of a general trans person, meaning a transgender person, is going to be, heavily connotated. And I don't love the idea of like transvestitism, which is different. That is a kink to wear clothes of a different gender, but you do not identify that way. It's like, I just want to get back to the days when like that was just an innocent kink. It had nothing about a statement of any sort. I want the innocent kink days back. Yes, JD.
I don't know how I feel about the use of the word kink there, Michelle. It implies a sexual connotation. Some people just prefer to wear clothing that is more traditionally female and that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, that's generally a gender non-conforming person. A transvestite usually is for sexual gratification.
Before he came out as transsexual, Eddie Izzard referred to himself as a transvestite and dressed as a woman in his daily life, Susie Izzard.
Yes, previously.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those where language is a lot.
He actually, now that I think about it, he has a bit in his Dress to Kill special where he's just like, excuse me, thank you.
Yeah.
Where she's like, it's like, that person was a transvestite, but they were weirdo transvestite, right? Like, that's the important part, is they were a weirdo. And then she refers to herself as executive transvestite, and it's, if you haven't seen at that time Eddie Izzard's Dress to Kill, strongly recommend you check it out. It's one of the funniest goddamn things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, but then I should clarify that in this context I do mean transgender, meaning that a person is choosing to live their life as trans. Transvestite meaning a person who does it because they get sexual gratification. But as language evolved, this is one of those things, because everybody used to just call like transvestite when referring to transgender, so we have evolved our language to be more specific now, and with that comes some confusion. And it's actually very on par with, like, people will say I'm bisexual, and then people will say, well, you can't be bisexual because then you're cutting out the other genders, and they're saying no, bisexual meaning my gender and other gender. And then other people say, well, no, pansexual is the correct term. And it's one of those where, like, I hope people understand my meaning.
And I think ultimately my biggest issue is just the male character dressing in women's underwear is the pervert character, right? And there's been historically this connection between that sort of thing and perversion that I just feel like at this point maybe we're better off just not using that trope anymore. Because it was kind of off-putting to me in this, and so it's just something that I wanted to bring up and talk about. Again, I don't believe anything was done here maliciously. It's just something that I wish people would think about more.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because I was like, I don't mind showing that somebody dresses in a different outfit and it can be a sexual gratification. I don't mind that. I do mind that people are going to be like, oh, I look at this at a very base level and see, oh, a transgender person is a pervert when it's not even a transgender person. Like,
yeah,
wild.
I think it is a sad thing in a lot of ways, and not even like people are like, oh, it's not my fault what other people take from what I've done. And I do agree with that. It's not. But at the same time, if you find out that people are taking the wrong thing from what you've done, doesn't that then make you want to take steps to change what you're doing? So that maybe that doesn't happen so much anymore. I don't know. That seems like, it's not your fault, but there's something you could very easily do about it to make it stop happening. That's, wow, this turned into a whole moral lecture about stuff. Sometimes as a white dude, mostly dude, I feel like my opinions are the least relevant in all of existence, but I don't know.
It's actually kind of funny because I think about our dynamic often. You, as the mostly white dude, as you say.
No, white mostly dude. I am 100% white person.
Well, okay, fair. Okay. That percentage is good.
I am certain of that. I want to do a 23andMe because I want to be the first person where they're like, how is, I'm convinced I am. They're going to be like, how is this possible? There's no trace of African DNA here whatsoever. None. Zero. He somehow came out of Europe, evolved like this. He's the whitest white there has ever been.
So yeah, you break away from your stereotype and you're the one who catches a lot of that stuff, whereas I'm a little bit more like, I don't know. Like, I'm okay with a lot more stuff, which is very funny to me.
I do think, by the way, if people don't understand what I mean by mostly dude, I've recently started to engage in a more serious manner with what I used to just refer to as being very in touch with my feminine side. Sort of having, I think just in a lot of ways, also just philosophically rejecting the idea of gender binary, right? But I think also not just the stuff that's happening with our trans friends right now, but I think also just because that's a thing that I'm doing a lot of personal growth with and expansion and just learning about myself, I think also in a lot of ways makes me kind of hypersensitive to that sort of thing just because where I am right now.
Mm-hmm. No, and I'm not saying it's a problem at all. It's just funny to me that we switched. You would expect me
absolutely.
to, I'm the sensitive woman who cannot handle anything.
And also, once again, it's like Michelle, as a general rule, hates anything funny, and this is and it's the one that didn't
completely
quite work
swapped.
for me.
I think it's because I was having so much fun finding all that subtext and then being concerned that it was going to be a reveal.
No.
One thing, it actually reminded me of a movie we reviewed ages and ages and ages ago called Who Invited Them?
Yes.
Where we could not decide, was this revealed way too early? Did we pick up on it way earlier than we should have? And I won't go into too much because I don't want to actually reveal it in case somebody does plan on going and watching this movie I've not heard mentioned since we reviewed it in any of my work communities. Not that it's bad, it's just like...
Is that the one that Dirty Dick Casablancas was in?
That the what?
Is that the one that that Dirty Dick Casablancas was in?
No, I don't remember. That's 2 years ago. Almost 3 years ago.
Ryan something.
Yes, Ryan Hansen.
Yeah, Ryan Hansen. Yeah, that's Dirty Dick Casablancas from Veronica Mars.
Yes. Yes. Yep,
yeah,
yep,
I
it's
remember
that
one. Sort of, if I remember correctly, in a lot of ways, a precursor for you and I, at least in the discussion, to what we inevitably talked about in the first Speak No Evil.
Yep.
Yep. And like in a movie like Watcher. Oh God,
Yeah.
Toya Kuno's Watcher, guys. If you haven't seen that movie, go fucking see it. It's got one of the greatest individual shots I've ever seen in a movie ever in my life.
But don't listen to our episode about it because I was not prepared for a debate and I was panicking. I was not prepared. I did not come with my notes.
You did
not come with my notes. I would defend myself way better now.
I was also still very much in a much more aggressive place with my thoughts at that time. So
I still stand by not liking that movie. So.
The original Speak No Evil?
No, the Watcher.
Oh, Watcher? Okay, well, fair enough.
I still stand by it. Yeah. I do want to add just a quick disclaimer now that we are getting near the end of the episode that I know that some people are sensitive to the word transvestite, and I'm sorry if anybody did not like my use of it. I have people in my life who will be unnamed who do identify that way, and that's how they define it. So I'm using that definition, but it used to be used to describe transgender people and is not really accurate these days. I think transgender people are not considered transvestites. Like that, I'm not saying they're one and the same.
I do feel, Michelle, that I think we've had enough of certain things to make people understand we're at least trying. So, you know.
Exactly. But I always want to clarify, I don't want to cause harm when I'm trying to talk about these. And even like just saying a word can sometimes be like, because people have referred to you in this manner that is meant to be offensive. Like it sucks.
Well, and obviously they already knew because I put a disclaimer at the beginning of it telling them that there were things.
Yes, I recall when we went back in time and did that.
But
I knew that.
They're well aware that we were going to be talking about sensitive things in regard to gender and sexuality. And they were prepared for it. So there you go.
Perfect. I'm so glad because just terminology when you were talking about anything related to gender and sexuality is so difficult because words have meaning, but words evolve and meanings change, and some people use a different meaning and they mean the same thing, but they're using a different word. Language is so difficult when it comes to very complex topics, and I am not always the best at using those words. So that's why I just wanted to say, like, I'm so sorry if somebody thinks I used it incorrectly. I'm using it in the way I was told, but that's not the definition that everyone uses either. So I hope they understood the meaning and intent.
By all means, if you have any feedback or anything like that, please drop us a line. mail@wewatchshudder.com. We're on the social medias. Let us know what you think we could be doing better. That's always something that we would love to hear from folks about.
That's the thing I'm talking to my therapist about, how I'm like, nothing I do is ever enough. The world is literally on fire. And she's like, you need to set rules for yourself of what will I consider my level of helping enough. And that's my homework this week, and I have made no progress on it.
Michelle, there's nothing you could possibly do about Los Angeles being on fire, so just...
Well, maybe if I hadn't set it on fire, it wouldn't have. Oh, no. Is that the felony that's going to make us famous?
Oh, shit. Is this what it
Throwback.
That's a callback, Michelle. Have you really been out of comedy that long?
It happened a whole half hour ago, so therefore it's a Throwback Thursday.
Fair enough.
Oh, shit. No, never mind. Today's Saturday. I was like, was it actually Thursday? I'm so clever. No, like that was 36 hours ago. Okay.
There's one last thing I want to say because I literally just saw it in front of me on the screen because I'm on the IMDb page for Getaway, and they're playing the trailer for Getaway, and I'm sure it's just whoever put the trailer together, some weirdo marketing guy. I'm not blaming anybody involved with the movie, but this trailer says, "From the mind of Nick Frost." And if I ever see a title on a movie that says "From the mind of," I'm immediately like, oh, come on, get fucked. I don't know what it is. There's something about that specific phrase. From the mind of Nick. There it is. From the mind of Nick Frost. Oh, God. Can't we just say written by Nick Frost? Come on, guys.
Words have meanings, JD, and they mean different things, and that phrase might upset you, but another person thought it was the most eloquent marketing statement they had ever... I hate the English language. I want everybody to just know what I'm thinking. No, never mind. No, not like... I want to be able to transmit my thoughts as I want to other people. One of my biggest fears is that somebody will gain the ability to read all of my thoughts, and they will know what a bad person I am. Because there's a lot of things I say, or I say that I shouldn't say, and there's a lot more stuff that I think that I should not ever think.
You know what, Michelle, I'm sorry to change directions right away, but something that I just remembered that I do want to ask you about from this movie. Maybe this is one that I at least need to go back and watch again just to see if there's little
now
details
that you know,
that I missed.
see if you pick up on all those hints and find them fun.
Yeah, there's one thing in here. Shit, did I just completely brain fart on the detail that I was going to point out that I thought was... I did. It's gone. God damn it.
I'm sure if I start... I was about to say, I'm sure as I start talking, you'll be like, I have to interrupt her with my thought. I knew it.
It seems that the idea is just these are people who are psychopaths and they come to this island and kill a bunch of people. There are two small details that popped up just thinking about it because, again, as I do, I just finished watching the movie 10, 15 minutes before we recorded. Two things I want to ask you about. When they first get to the island, Mommy says something about being a descendant of the Englishman who was
murdered by their ancestors.
Right. And then after Daddy kills Sam, the kid, she starts talking about how, like, I'm going to have to call international cleanup. It's going to be a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think on any level at all there might be something more going on here?
I didn't think of those two things related until you just brought it up. I did kind of find that bit of dialogue intriguing, but confusing at the same time, and I kind of just wish that they didn't have that element, so I think I just ignored it.
Fair
because
enough.
I was like, this is a simple enough story of these people get together, or maybe live together, who knows, but they go and they just murder a bunch of people as a happy family, and then they're done, and that's their, like, way of enjoying life. That's such a good story to me that I don't think we need whatever big conspiracy that dialogue is hinting at.
And now, but also now thinking about it, there's also, like you said, that whole thing about where they're like, now we're going to have to find a whole new person to be the kid, to be my brother, and this whole thing. The more I sit here and think about it, the more I feel like, and I don't know that there's ever any intention that we're supposed to know, but in ways it feels like, now the thing about her dad being, or her being a descendant of those Englishmen, I guess I can write that off as like, oh, maybe she's just in a little bit of a mood as a psychopath and she's getting a little cheeky with them. You know, I could accept that. But the whole thing about, like, international cleanup, and now we're going to have to find somebody else, like, you have to have the four of you? It can't just be the three of you? Why is it this specific setup? And so, I don't know.
Those are good questions.
It seems like there might be something more going on here.
And with writer Nick Frost, this movie came from the mind of Nick Frost.
From the mind of Nick Frost.
From the mind. With this coming from the mind of Nick Frost, I wouldn't be surprised if he just threw in like a little backstory that he doesn't care if people understand.
What if
he likes a little extra?
What
something.
if when Ferguson shows up on the island and kills the old lady, it's not because he thinks these people have been going crazy or that he thinks Johann the Dane has done all of this on the island. Maybe he's part of the conspiracy. Maybe he's there to extract these guys off the island, and be part of this. Who knows, Michelle? Now
Nick Frost does because it came from the mind of him.
It sure did from the mind of him. It came from the mind of him. That's wonderful.
A great movie title. It came from the mind of him, and it's just a porn.
It came from the mind of him.
Yeah, and then it's just porn.
Did you have a specific funniest moment in this movie for you, Michelle?
None of this is like ha 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 funny, but I really enjoy the daughter and her massively bad attitude throughout this whole thing. Like I think I just like the kids, and overall I'm like, oh, they're peculiar. It's not like anybody says a line that makes me laugh. Although the mommy daddy thing, like, it's just one of those like, or like she's like, do you want a blowjob? And the way he's like, yep.
That's the one I was gonna is when she first says she's like looking away. She's like, do you want a blowjob? And he's like, I'm sorry, what? Turns and she's like, would you like a blowjob? When he turns and kind of looks forward, and then he just gets this like tiny grin on his face and just nods really quick a couple times. That was fucking perfect. It's like the fucking kid in a candy store. Yes, I want all the treats.
Where he's like, oh, what a funny joke. Yes, please. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
It's fucking fabulous. That moment. And then of course there's the whole thing later on, and I really don't care either way, but that moment really fucking made me laugh. I also really loved the costumes of the villagers. Like,
the drum guy.
I was really getting into the folk horror side of this, man.
I have a feeling that you're going to wind up rewatching this at some point.
I'm sure.
Yeah, because now that you have different context, you're going to want to know if you pick up on it earlier. And definitely think that at the next Michelin review, the one where people give us a one skull because they hate us, or hate me in particular, then we can say, if you have rewatched it, whether it changed at all. Because I am curious knowing what you know now.
Is it possible, Michelle, that, like, are these 1-star reviews on the episode, or we get one for the podcast as a whole?
For the podcast as a whole, so definitely my fault.
Well, my question is it possible it's just one asshole over and over?
No, because it's on Spotify, and your one account can only rate a podcast once.
So you are just entirely rejecting the idea that one person might be so messed up that they set up a new email address every month to leave a 1-star review over Michelle in review?
Oh shit, I have a whole list of people that could be, if that's a possibility. Either way, what I know for sure is somebody hates me. At least one person.
maybe they hate me, Michelle. It's entirely possible. Just because the episode is named after you, maybe they're like, it'd be a great Michelin review if JD would just shut the fuck up.
Oh, wow. I can't believe that you're trying to steal all the hatred that I'm trying to gain sympathy about and make it all about you. I can't ever be the one most hated on an episode. JD's got to come in and be like, no, I'm the worst.
Can you really not believe that, Michelle? Come on.
I think anything is possible. People are capable of hating so much stuff. No, you hate in the mind of.
What I'm saying is, are you really surprised that I'm coming in to try and steal your glory?
No, of course not.
That's what I do. Ah!
We really like to steal the other person's glory. It's like, oh, that's a good idea. Let's just take that for ourselves. Yoink.
For sure. Yoink.
Yeah. Yoink.
Oh, okay. Guys, that's a good episode. We'll put that one in the can, get it up there for people. We have a floating bonus episode coming up soon. We're not going to tell you what it's about. Originally, it was going to come out at the end of the month. Then we found out it can come out pretty much any time here. But aside from that, what are we doing next week, Michelle? I know you're excited.
I am so excited. 28 days later, I have pages and pages and pages of notes.
Yeah, was it in the November Michelle in review? We were talking, somehow it came up, and I mentioned that I hadn't, because that was the franchise you watched, I believe. It was...
No.
Anyway, I had mentioned somewhere along the line that I had never actually seen it, and you were like, oh, well, the next time I get to pick an episode on an open week. And so I didn't even give her the option. I was just like, oh, here's your open week. I went ahead and put 28 days later in there for you.
That was the December Michelle in review because I was talking about 28 years later.
Oh, right, in the news section. Yeah. 28 years later, shot on an iPhone and $15,000 worth of accessories.
Yeah. Oh, man. I can't say any of my thoughts, but let's just say that if you like the movie 28 Days Later, it's going to be very informative.
I'm a little buzzed up on one too many Red Bulls. I might sit down and just watch it tonight yet.
But then you're going to have to wait a week to talk to me about it, and I know you can't handle that.
Oh, I mean, we can always, Michelle, it's not like it's a movie that it exists right now. We can record the episode anytime.
I cannot record tomorrow at all, so you're going to have to go at least one day without talking to me about it. And can you do that?
I mean, I'm out of town most of the day tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you'll have your phone. I know you're going to have to send me at least one cheeky comment about being a rage virus.
Even fucking John Humphreys has stopped listening at this point. Michelle, off, gone. Fucking Sam Wasted, gone.
Oh, bye, guys.
Sam Cisneros down there in San Jose. Sam, the very first person to ever contact us. What's Parrot Head Dad's name? It's that's another guy. He's out there.
Oh, I forgot his real name. Parrot Head Dad.
Parrot Head Dad.
The Jimmy Buffett podcast.
Yeah. Anyway, I think I named most of the people that I know. Who else listens to us? Calvin, are you out there? Charlie, can you hear me?
Well,
Ground
with that
control to
being
Major
said,
Tom.
That's the second time I've heard that referenced in an hour. What is happening? Life is a simulation.
Well, it's definitely not the second time you've heard it referenced in an hour because this podcast is 57 minutes long and we were talking for 5 minutes before we started recording.
You haven't heard what's going on in my head.
Okay.
From the mind of me comes Ground Control to Major Tom.
From the mind of Say Goodnight, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.
For more horror content, visit WeWatchShudder.com, where you'll find our world-famous, patent-pending Ghoul blog and Squelch files, as well as a schedule of upcoming episodes. Find us on social media at WeWatchShudder on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and I guess Twitter, if you're still doing that for whatever reason. You can email us. mail@WeWatchShudder.com is the address. mail@WeWatchShudder.com. You can even call and leave us a voicemail, 701-566-9510. No, really. 701-566-9510. Give it a shot. See what happens. We Watch Shudder is a production of Rat Factory Media.